With 5 games left to play, it's crunch time for the Buffalo Bills as they gear up for the stretch run. And I'm here to talk about the road ahead today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino from the Draft Network, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Happy Monday to you, and thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day. And as a reminder to you, we are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Well, folks, the weekend that was in the world of the NFL could not have gone better for your Buffalo Bills, who are now, once again, the number one seed in the AFC playoff standings. The Bills control their own destiny when it comes to the number one seed. After the Bills beat the Patriots on Thursday night on the road, they got all kinds of help. Every help that you could have wanted them to get, they got it. The Bengals beat the Chiefs. The Vikings beat the Jets. The 49ers beat the Dolphins. Heck, even the Raiders beat the Chargers, and the Eagles beat the Titans. It was a very good weekend for the Buffalo Bills. And so as we consider the road ahead here and the final 5 games remaining on the schedule for the Bills and everyone else that they're going up against, I want to spend today looking at the road ahead for the Bills. And I think that conversation has to start with the Bills, right? It's about the Bills. They have a chance to cling to this number one seed and not let it go. It's right there for them. It's a tough road. They have some challenging games, but that's the position that they find themselves in right now. And so for as much as it is helpful for the Bills to get help, right? Losses by the Chiefs or losses by the Bengals or the Dolphins or Jets or whatever teams, it's about the Bills. The Bills are the ones that control their own destiny. They're the only team that can say that right now. And so let's focus this conversation on the Bills to start, and then we'll get into some of the competition and the dynamics there. But the main thing is the main thing, and that's the Buffalo Bills doing what they need to do to finish this thing out. And so the first thing I want to do is spend some time here examining 10 things that I think are critical for the Bills over the next 5 games to be that number one seed and get that first round bye. So let's do that first. The first thing is health. Number one is health. The Bills need some better fortune when it comes to health the rest of the year. It's been bad to this point. And I think the best way that I could summarize the injury woes that the Bills have had to this point in the season is that coming into this past week, in a week where the Bills lost Von Miller and lost Deion Dawkins due to injury, your franchise left tackle, your franchise pass rusher, we actually thought the Bills were getting healthy. We believed that. So the Bills are getting healthy despite injuries to Deion Dawkins and Von Miller. The Bills need to get Deion Dawkins back as soon as possible. And, of course, Von Miller will be out at least 3 more games, but there's an expectation that he'll be back soon after that. The Bills need to get those players back and have some better luck the rest of the way when it comes to injuries. So I have that as number one. Number 2 is taking care of the football on offense. And they're trending in a great direction right now. The Bills have only turned the ball over twice in the last 3 games. And 3 weeks ago, we talked about this offense as a unit that turned the ball over 19% of their offensive drives. 19%. Nearly 1 in 5 offensive drives ended in a turnover for the Bills. That's unacceptable. And that has since come down to 15.9% right now, but it needs to keep coming on down. And it's not that I have an expectation for the Bills to never turn over the football. That's not realistic. But these multiple turnover games, these 3-4 turnover games, got to go away. They can't be a thing for this team anymore. They're trending in a great direction. Needs to stay that way. Number 3, I have written down Josh Allen continuing to find himself or re-find himself. He's really gotten to a much better spot. But starting with that second half against Green Bay coming out of the bye, there's been some issues, right? Turnovers in the second half against Green Bay, turnovers against the Jets, and then getting his elbow injured at the end of that ball game and how that impacted him the next few weeks, whether it's playing with the injury, not practicing, not going out in pregame warmups. There's been some challenges there. And so as Josh is not only kind of finding his confidence again, he's playing through an elbow injury on his throwing arm. And so you love what you saw against New England, and you kind of saw that ramp up against the Lions and Browns. But Josh continuing to settle back into the quarterback we expect him to be is really, really important the rest of the way. And I feel good about where he's at right now, and I love that he's got this nice mini bye that the Bills are experiencing right now before the Jets game to really put himself in position to have all the confidence necessary to be the quarterback he needs to be to lead this team where we want them to go. So that was the third thing I have written down. The fourth thing I have written down is the rushing offense. And the rushing offense is trending in a great direction right now. And I think the best way that I can communicate that to you is to compare the rushing production in the first 6 games before the bye and the 6 games since the bye. In the first 6 games of the season before the bye, the Bills averaged 118 rushing yards per game, a respectable number. But in the 6 games since the bye, the Bills have averaged 155 yards rushing per game. That's a really good number for Buffalo. And we know that Josh Allen certainly contributes to that, but I think you can look to some of these games recently and realize that those numbers, that uptick in rushing production has a whole lot more to do with Devin Singletary and James Cook than it does Josh Allen. And the Bills have embraced more of a gap-oriented run scheme. And they've been more deliberate about getting James Cook going to the point where he got 20 touches against the Patriots. He didn't get 20 touches at any point this season or in college. I mean, that was a big chunk of opportunity and market share for James Cook and had some really good moments. And so he's a guy that I think needs reps and will only get better with more opportunity as he feels his way and gets more comfortable. But, he's got an explosive element to him that really can help this offense to go with Devin Singletary. And so this rushing offense is trending in a great direction, needs to stay that way. Number 5, I have written down offensive X factors, right? The Bills' offense has been very, very good in terms of yards and scoring and all of that, but you start to think about, what opportunities they have to really get better right now. And I think there's several. There's several wrinkles and things that can be considered that can really get this offense to an even higher level. And not that I'm going to sit here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things written down. It's not like all 5 of these things need to happen, but if 2 or 3 of them do, the Bills can really evolve and take another step offensively in their first year under Ken Dorsey as the offensive coordinator. The first thing is Dawson Knox. Can you get him going a little bit more this year? The touchdown production's way down compared to last year and just the opportunity overall. But that's a wrinkle to your offense that you haven't fully unleashed to this point. Would love to see that. James Cook, right? His opportunity is ramped up. You're seeing him make more plays. You're seeing him play more confidently. My favorite thing about James Cook is that he had 6 targets last week against the Patriots and caught all 6 of them for 41 yards. I love that because the target efficiency wasn't there prior to that game, and you saw him and Josh kind of not be on the same page. And you know that James Cook, that's a big area where he can help this football team. And so continuing to incorporate James Cook and get him more comfortable and find out ways that you can get the most out of him. That's a wrinkle that I think he can further develop here over the remainder of the games. How about Nyheim Hines? Explosive skill set that he offers. And you saw him on the field against New England, 31% of the offensive plays. I mean, the Bills were in two-back stuff a ton against New England. That's a wrinkle that you can add. And the motion that you were doing with him and, trying to getting him going on some wheel routes and just having him on the field provides an exciting weapon for Josh Allen. That's a wrinkle that could be explored to add to this offense. How about John Brown / Odell Beckham Jr.? Odell's supposed to make a decision midweek, so we're going to know. And so whether it's Odell Beckham Jr., whether it's John Brown, whether it's both, you got a veteran receiver coming to this offense. Potentially two. Certainly some wrinkles you can add with that route running ability that's added to the mix, right? We talked last week or sometime recently about how the Bills' decline in route running at wide receiver has been significant this year. Well, you get some of that back with John Brown and certainly Odell Beckham Jr. And the last thing that I'll mention here in these offensive X factors, how about Khalil Shakir? I know he's a rookie. You don't want to count on him being a high-volume guy for your offense, but seems like he does pretty well when he gets opportunities. And you go back to that Steelers game, and he elevated for that seam shot. He caught the touchdown where it was kind of a contested situation. You feel like he can help this offense more than he has. And I think it comes down to just confidence and Josh Allen being willing to trust him to make plays. Well, he kind of has when he's had chances to do it. And so I'd love to see that dynamic evolve and see how he can help the team a little bit more the rest of the way. Number 6, Tre'Davious White, right? Him continuing to settle into this defense. Ramping up week by week. And that's great because we know what a healthy Trey White can mean for this football team, especially when you think about the Lions game, the Vikings game, the Browns game, even the Jets to an extent where you needed a corner like Trey White. Well, now you got him back. And so getting him to the point where he's locked in as your number one corner again, that's going to be really important, right? That's an opportunity for this team to get better this year. And then for number 7, it's somewhat of an extension of the cornerback situation, but like solidify what you want from your number 2 corner opposite of Trey. Is it Dane Jackson? Is it Xavier Rhodes? Is it Kyer Elam? Are all of those guys just keeping the seat warm for Christian Benford? I mean, the rotation's been okay, but you kind of love to know that you have your guys, right? And I have a level of confidence and a level of concern for every single one of those guys. But I'd love for the Bills to kind of be able to settle in because if you're going to be a zone defense, which the Bills are in a lot of ways, having that back 7 solidified so that they can play off of each other, communicate, squeeze routes, space the field, all of that stuff together is going to make for a more cohesive unit on the back end. So solidifying that number 2 situation, I think it could be potentially very big for this football team. Number 8, I have written down tackle. Just tackle. Still some intermittent issues there, and I look at Matt Milano for that. Right? That's been a concern for him. Damar Hamlin's had some missed tackles creep up. The defensive linemen missed tackles. Like, how do you get better there? How do you get back to where you were the first couple of weeks of the season when I said, this is the best tackling defense Sean McDermott's ever had? How do you get back to that? You heard the Patriots kind of come out and admit that they said, we don't think the Bills are a good tackling defense, and we want to stress them to come up and make tackles. Now, the Bills, for the most part, answered the call there, but that's not the first time we've heard that, right? The Bucs said that last year. There's been other times where it's escaping me right now to point to the specific example, but you've heard opponents come out of a Bills game and say, yeah, we wanted to challenge them to tackle because we thought they were a poor tackling defense. The word's out, folks. And if the Bills can tackle when teams think they can't, that's huge. But right now, that's definitely something that opponents think about the Bills, that they're not a good tackling team. Well, tackle, change the narrative. Number 9, Ed Oliver and Greg Rousseau up front leading the way. They're both healthy, and man, I love these 2 young players. You can feel their presence. They fight for their gaps against the run. They've got pass rush ability. They're energy guys. They're young. Von Miller's not around for the next 3 games. These guys can make a big-time impact the rest of the way. And then right at number 10, I have the rest of the defensive line depth. I've really, really enjoyed the defensive tackles the last 3 weeks and the defensive ends last week against the Patriots I thought were terrific. More of that, more Shaq Lawson, more moments from A.J. Epinesa, more effort from Boogie Basham, flashes from Jordan Phillips, flashes from Tim Settle, Daquan doing what Daquan's done all year. This defensive line can really carry this defense, I think, in a lot of ways the rest of the way. So I'm looking at how all of these guys, these 10 different guys that are going to be on the field for this defense up front, how do they continue to flash and play together and set the tone for the Bills on defense? So those are the 10 things that I think are critical for the Bills the rest of the way. Health, taking care of the ball on offense, Josh continuing to find himself, rushing offense, offensive X factors, Trey White continuing to settle in, solidifying your number 2 corner situation, tackling on defense, adding Groot up front, and the defensive line depth. That's the stuff that I'm looking at for the Bills to secure this number 1 seed. This holiday, find what you love at Total Wine and More. With so many great bottles to choose from, it's easy to find a new favorite single-barrel bourbon or the perfect gifts for everyone on your list with some help from a friendly guide. And all that with the confidence of knowing you found something special for the lowest price. You'll love what you find only at Total Wine and More. Curbside pickup and delivery is available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly. Be 21. At Locked On Bills, we believe home should be where you and your family feel safest, especially over the holidays. This season, give yourself and your family the gift of peace and protection with the number 1 rated home security system, SimpliSafe. And right now, SimpliSafe is offering Locked On Bills listeners 40% off a new security system, but don't put this off. SimpliSafe is whole home security with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and out, smarter ways to detect motion that only alerts you when a threat is real, and even hazard sensors that detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. You can get professional monitoring services under $1 per day. So don't miss your chance to save big on my favorite security system. You can get 40% off any new system at SimpliSafe.com/LockedOnNFL today. That's SimpliSafe.com/LockedOnNFL. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. So I wanted to commit a lot of time here before we talked about the competition to talking about the Bills. Because the Bills go out and take care of their business. They're the number 1 seed. They get the bye, and the AFC goes through Buffalo. And so let's look at the Bills' schedule the rest of the way. And the Bills play the Jets this week. We're going to commit a lot of time in the coming days to talking about the New York Jets and the challenges that they present and what the Bills need to do. But they're coming off of a hard-fought game against the Vikings, had multiple chances to win it late. They couldn't pull it off. They have Mike White now at quarterback over Zach Wilson, who's an upgrade, and he's maximizing more of their offensive talent. They haven't had Michael Carter the last couple of weeks. Defensively, we know this is a really sound football team. And so they get him at home and a chance to avenge one of their 3 losses on the season. That comes this week on Sunday. Next week, the Miami Dolphins, who just lost their first game this year when Tua Tagovailoa starts and finishes the game against the 49ers. Brock Purdy came in after 1 series from Jimmy Garoppolo, who's out for the season with a foot injury, came in and kept the car between the lines and won a ball game, leaning on that rushing attack and that defense. But, you know, the 49ers had more success than a lot of teams recently defensively against Tua in this offense and the challenges that they present with this quick strike passing game and a really, really well-designed offense that forces you to play fast. And so you kind of want to look at that 49ers blueprint and see how the Chargers play them this coming week, and you get them in a couple weeks here. Big game. Another opportunity to avenge a loss. Then you have at the Bears on a Saturday, 1 p.m. The Bears are not a good football team in terms of record. They got a lot of young players on offense and defense that they're relying on. A game that you feel like you should be able to go handle, but it is on the road. In Chicago, there could be wind, right? It's the Windy City for a reason. There could be some elements there. Elements are very much a neutralizer for the team that's not as good, right? Which would be the Bears in this situation. Justin Fields, a very dynamic, big play quarterback. Now he's got plenty of warts that he's still working through, but there's a big play component to Justin Fields, and they run the ball well. They have an opportunistic defense, and so the Bills can't get caught looking ahead. I don't think they will. I don't think the Bills are that type of team this year. I really do appreciate their focus, their resolve, their resiliency this year, and I think they'll come into Chicago ready to play the game they need to play to win. But they're not an easy out, I don't think, at all. Then you have a huge one at the Bengals, Monday Night Football on the road. This Bengals team is hot right now. I think they've won 8 of their last 10 or something like that. They've won a lot of ball games lately. Just beat the Chiefs. Their passing game is humming. Defensively, I mean, really, really impressed with Lou Anarumo and the multiplicity of their defense, and they just do so much. They throw so much at you with their fronts and their looks and their coverage packages, and it's a really good football team. Really good. I'm well versed with the Bengals. They're in my region for pro scouting at the Draft Network, so I have quite a bit to say about what they are and kind of the challenges that they present. So, we'll have some good conversations about them very soon. But the Bengals are a really hot team in this conference that presents some real challenges to the Bills, and the Bills going to have to go to their place and win a ball game. And like I said, this team is playing really, really well right now. And so we'll talk about them in just a moment, but that's a really tough challenge on the Bills' schedule. That I mean, number 1 seed could be on the line there because both the Bengals and the Bills have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Kansas City. So that could be a high-stakes ball game, just like the Dolphins should. That's another high-stakes ball game. And then you close out the season at home against the New England Patriots. And so I know the Bills have really had the Patriots number over the last 3 years, have matched up well. Belichick really hasn't come up with a great plan to stop Josh Allen. But, division game to close it out, there could be a lot on the line. And, you could have a situation where the Bills have everything to lose and the Patriots would love nothing more than to put a wrench in the Bills' plans. And so that's going to be a hard-fought ball game. It's a tough schedule. I mean, the good news is you have 3 of your last 5 at home after the Bills feels like they've played a ton of road games to this point. The Bears are the only team on your schedule with a losing record. If the season ended right now, I mean, you're playing against the Jets, Dolphins, and Bengals, who are all playoff teams. And so the Bills got a tough road ahead of them. Now it's certainly I'd be willing to bet that they're favored in 4 out of 5 of these. I don't know if they're going to be favored to win in Cincinnati. Depends on how the Bengals play the next 3 weeks. But the Bills have plenty of work to do here. They don't give out the number 1 seed for leading after week 13. That's not a thing. There's no banners to hang after week 13. The Bills have found themselves in a really, really good position once again. They control their own destiny, but the job's not done. I'm sure the Bills are fully aware of that, but the road ahead for the Bills is pretty tough in my opinion. And so in just a moment, we're going to compare the Bills' road ahead to some of the other key players here in this AFC the rest of the way. But first, I hope you have been getting in on the action over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is my favorite daily fantasy resource. How does it work? You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they will score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available, and they have every sport that you watch. So not just the NFL, but NBA, NHL, golf, college sports, soccer, WNBA, you name it, you can find it over at Prize Picks, and entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. So download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. So if you deposit 100, Prize Picks will give you 100. If you deposit 50, Prize Picks will give you 50. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. I want to close this out by taking a little bit of a deeper look into who I identify as the Bills' toughest challenges in the AFC, the biggest contenders to the number 1 seed. And right now it's the Bills at 9-3. They're the 1 seed over Kansas City, who's also 9-3 because they have the head-to-head tiebreaker. The 3 seed is the Baltimore Ravens at 8-4, who the Bills have a tiebreaker over. And Lamar Jackson got injured on Sunday, and Coach Harbaugh after the game said, it could be weeks. So it's a pretty significant loss. I know Tyler Huntley's a pretty good backup quarterback, but the Ravens have been pretty vulnerable all season long. And they would need to be 2 games better than the Bills the rest of the way to jump them in the standings, because the Bills do have a better record by 1 game and, of course, the head-to-head tiebreaker. You have the Tennessee Titans at 7-5, your 4 seed. I think you can kind of lock Tennessee into that 4 seed. Maybe they can get hot and stack up some wins and get some help. And maybe they could be the 3 seed, maybe, depending on, what happens with Cincinnati, who I think will eventually win this AFC North. But Tennessee is in the AFC South. It just has no competition. The Colts, Jaguars, Texans. That's a division that's just going to be theirs for a long time. The Bengals are the 5 seed at 8-4. Dolphins are the 6 seed at 8-4. The Jets are still in at 7-5 with the Patriots and Chargers right behind them at 6-6. Meanwhile, the Raiders have been kind of hot lately at 5-7, and the Browns got Deshaun Watson back. They're 5-7. They won. They beat the Texans. I don't think it was because of Deshaun Watson, who played terrible. They got some bunch of miscellaneous touchdowns. But, I think when you look at the bottom here, this 7 seed, I mean, Jets, Patriots, Chargers, Raiders, Browns, all very legitimately in it. I should say Pittsburgh as well. It's probably unfair of me to not include Pittsburgh, especially if the Bills beat the Jets on Sunday. The Jets fall to 7-6. I mean, you got a lot of contenders for that 7 spot. It's going to be interesting. We're focused on the top here. We're focused on the 1 seed. Chiefs, Bengals, and Dolphins are the biggest competition. Let's look at the Chiefs' schedule the rest of the way. We went through the Bills, so keep in mind what we just talked about with the Bills. Very competitive, tough schedule, in my opinion, the rest of the way. Not for the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to win out. At Denver, at Houston, Seattle, Denver again, and at the Raiders. I'd be stunned if they lost any of those games. Now, here's the thing about the Chiefs, and I know that everybody loves them, but the Chiefs have been vulnerable all year. They played a lot of tight ball games. I mean, Tennessee took them to overtime with a rookie quarterback in Malik Willis. Tight games against the Chargers. I mean, they played tight. They lost to the Colts. The Chiefs have not been dominant this year. If you think they have been, then you haven't been paying attention. We know they're capable of being dominant, but they're not. A lot of young players that they're relying on defense. 2 rookie corners starting for them. Their receivers are, Tyreek Hill ain't there. So I respect the Chiefs a lot. And I think, like I said, I think they're going to win all those games. But they've been vulnerable this year. They have not been dominant. Really, really good football team, though. The Bengals, I mean, this is a team that's hot, and I have a lot of respect for so much of what they are as a team. Their passing game's phenomenal, and I really like their defense. Their next game is against the Browns, then at Tampa Bay, at New England, and then they host the Bills and Ravens. Now, the thing about that, I mean, that's a tough slate, right? Consecutive road games at Tampa and New England, then you close at home against the Bills and Ravens. I think there could be, I mean, they can go 3-2, 4-1. I can also see, if they have some hiccups here, 2-3. I don't know. I think they'll probably go 3-2 the rest of the way there. Then the Dolphins. The Dolphins just lost in San Francisco, which is the first of 3 consecutive road games. Their next game is at the Chargers, then at the Bills. They host Green Bay, go to New England, and finish at home against the Jets. That's not an easy stretch, in my opinion, at all. I think that's potentially a 3-2 type situation for them. But for all the speculation that we can have about those teams, it is about the Bills. It is about the Bills and their stretch against the Jets and Dolphins at home, to Chicago, to the Bengals, and then hosting the Patriots. My biggest concern right now is that the Bills go 4-1 and the Chiefs go 5-0. That really that's the Chiefs' path. And I think their fans are probably sitting down looking like Denver, Houston, Seattle, Denver, Raiders. I mean, the only team there with a winning record is Seattle, and they're pretty vulnerable. So we'll see here, but there's nothing to celebrate today. It was a good weekend for the Bills. They control their own destiny, but now they have to finish. It's time to get hot. It's time to turn it on. It's December. This is when the wins really, really matter. This is when you got to be playing your best football. 12 weeks went by quick, didn't they? I said it so many times, but it already feels that way. Week 1 against the Rams, you remember that? SoFi Stadium, Super Bowl champion Rams. Bills go out there and boat race them. Already feels like 100 years ago. 5 games left to go. Get healthy. Get Josh Allen going. Find some answers on defense. Go on a stretch run. Get this 1 seed. Stack some win in the playoffs. Let's have some fun the rest of the way. We'll be talking about it all right here on Locked On Bills, and that conversation continues tomorrow with Herd Mentality before we get ready for the Jets with our primer, with our crossover discussion, with our Friday stuff that we do. So make sure that you are locked in by ensuring that you're subscribed to the podcast. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share. Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow.